Hi! Today I'm going to be talking about the Star Trek Prime Timeline, fanfiction, and parodies. Star Trek the original series began telling the tale of the Starship Enterprise and her diverse crew of futuristic space mariners in 1966, but was cancelled after only 3 years of their supposed 5-year mission due to low Nielsen ratings. However, shortly thereafter, Star Trek became much more popular in syndication during the 70s. That surge in interest allowed several movies and more television series to be produced over the years, expanding what is now known amongst Trekkies as the Prime Timeline. Also known as Prime Reality or Prime Universe, this timeline captured the imaginations of millions and continues to do so today, which I'll get to later. But in 2005, Star Trek Enterprise was canceled after its 4th season, and the end of that series also marked the end of the official Prime Timeline. 4 years later, in 2009, J.J. Abrams gave us the Kelvin Timeline, and things haven't been the same since. Silly uniforms, too many lens flares, and a complete disregard for the spirit of Trek have left many Trekkies feeling a little salty. Star Trek Beyond, the 3rd movie in the Kelvin timeline, tried to fix all those problems, and it is a good movie, but it's still set in the Kelvin timeline with all the problematic continuity, and therefore can never explore or expand many of the more interesting concepts and cliffhangers from the Prime timeline. The upcoming new series, Star Trek Discovery, after teasing that it would take place in the Prime timeline, now turns out to take place in a different timeline entirely. Discovery takes place in an absurd timeline where Spock has a human stepsister shoehorned in. A preposterous alternate reality where CBS thinks people will actually want to pay for their CBS All Access streaming service. None of this bodes well for licensed Trek, and it certainly appears that the Prime Timeline is officially dead. But unofficially, fans have been producing fan films and fan series based on the Prime Timeline, like Hidden Frontier, which ran from 2000 to 2007. It had a low budget, used obvious virtual sets with halo-ridden green screen characters, and acting that ranges in quality from okay to atrocious. But Hidden Frontier explored new, interesting concepts and timelines based on the Prime Universe. You have to give them props for dedication to story and a long run of 7 years. In 2007, the fan series Starship Farragut began its run, and they released their most recent episode in 2015, and maybe might release another episode someday. Slightly higher quality and higher budget than Hidden Frontier, this series almost feels like a real Star Trek series. But some of the more recent Star Trek fan films are really good. Star Trek New Voyages began in 2004 and has a fairly high quality, and replicates the feel of the original series really well. In 2008, the name changed to Phase 2 and ended in 2016, a really good run. There are even cameos in this show by Trek alumnus Walter Koenig and George Takei. Another such high-quality fan production is Star Trek Continues. Released in 2013, the series follows Kirk, Spock, and the original series crew in a direct sequel to the original series, with some cameos by Trek alums such as John DeLance, Michael Dorn, and Marina Sirtis. In 2013, production began on the fan film Star Trek Renegades, which was directed by alumnus Tim Russ, who also appears in the film alongside fellow former Trek actors Walter Koenig, Robert Picardo, Mano Intiraymi, and Richard Hurd. There are a few quality issues, but this is a really interesting and really entertaining film. In 2014, Trek fans began shooting Axanar, which has performances by Richard Hatch, like Captain Apollo from Battlestar, and Trek alumnus Tony Todd. Alas, Paramount sued them after the initial short film teaser, eventually forcing Axanar Production to retool the planned 90-minute movie into two separate 15-minute shorts. The forced nerfing of a fan and alumnus project during a time when official Trek was making a bunch of crap felt like a slap in the face for hungry fans, not to mention the new draconian rules for fan productions, which is a story for another time. But parody is protected speech, which brings me to this film, Star Trek The Next Generation, a XXX parody. Only this parody is not even funny, it's just Trek. Made way back in 2011, this supposed parody, produced after the introduction of the Kelvin timeline, is more faithful to the Prime timeline and feels more like real Trek than any of the official Trek as of late, making the porno spoof feel more authentic than the new official canon may have even been part of the statement that writer-director Sam Hain was trying to make. Sam Hain has written and directed other science fiction, some of which is not even porno. This movie was made before a lot of the other high-quality Star Trek fan productions and may have even helped that trend. And since Galaxy Quest in 1999 was actually about actors from contemporary Earth encountering a space civilization with a culture based on Trek, Next Gen XXX may have been the very first Star Trek parody film that was actually any good in terms of being a Trek film. Except for the fact that it's not comedy, it's a porno. When I originally saw it on YouTube under the title Star Trek TNG, A Tale of Two Cities fan film, I thought it was just a high-quality fan film, nothing more, because all explicit adult content was edited out for this work-safe recut. The story sees our crew find Tasha Yar, their long-lost comrade, or at least a time-traveling alternate reality version of her, which is a backstory firmly rooted in specific details from official Next Generation, and the crew must solve the mystery of her reappearance. This Patrick Stewart lookalike is Giles Aston, a professional Patrick Stewart lookalike, making a living dressing as Captain Picard and Professor X. He was extremely apprehensive about doing this parody. However, Aston agreed to do it and later even reprised his role as Picard in the Star Trek Intrepid series, another impressive fan production you should probably check out. Intrepid, by the way, is totally family-friendly and safe for work. Aston delivers a convincing Picard with nuanced emotions portrayed through an attempt to be composed and professional in front of his crew. Just look at how much he can say with simply his eyes and body language. Shock when they're betrayed by Tasha, and devastating sadness when Tasha dies. Again. Sex scenes do not interfere with the plot, and the pairings make sense for those characters. Commander Data and Tasha Yar hook up, which was a plot point in the official Next Generation series. While the crew was inebriated, Tasha and Data have a judgment-impaired one-night stand, so it stands to reason that it might happen again. Will Riker and Deanna Troi also hook up, which, as any fan knows, is consistent with those characters. In Season 1 of TNG, it's explicit that Riker and Troi are ex-lovers, and in the movie Nemesis, Riker and Troi get married. When Jean-Luc Picard and Beverly Crusher hook up as well, it makes a lot of sense. It's the culmination of years of obvious sexual tension between those two characters as depicted in the official canon. Aston had a stunt double for Picard's explicit scene, also known as a stunt cock.
It was a stunt cock. Stunt cock? Yeah.
In the final episode of TNG, it's revealed that in one possible future, Picard and Crusher actually get married, then divorced. So this pairing seems appropriate. Geordi LaForge even hooks up with a hologram of Dr. Ava Braun. And in the real Next Generation, Ava Braun does express that she is disturbed by Geordi's romantic relationship with a hologram recreation of herself that he created to save the Enterprise from space whales years earlier. Clearly, These people cared about what makes sense for Trek. And you know we are in the darkest timeline when a porno parody is more serious about authenticity than the big studios pushing the official product are. In the future, we'll see how the upcoming Orville series pans out. The Seth MacFarlane Trek spoof seems promising, while Star Trek Discovery seems riddled with problems, and the Kelvin timeline movies are already beyond repair. The future for the Prime timeline canon, and indeed the true spirit of Trek, may lie in the robust and flourishing world of fan films and spoofs. And in a way, it's a porno parody that got the balls rolling. Paramount and CBS are dropping the ball. But fans have the power to save Star Trek. Go out there and do something that inspires you and have a good one. And if you enjoyed this video, press that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel, share my videos with your friends, and thanks for watching. Bye.
It's been a long road getting from there to here. It's been a long time, but my time is finally here, and I will see my dream come alive at last. I will touch the sky, and they're not gonna hold me down no more. No, they're not gonna change my mind, 'cause I